it. I like specifically the Undying band coming out. I was really surprised that Team T ban out this Grimstroke. I thought it was a little bit obvious coming out from them, but instead, both sides wanted to ban out as many offlaners as possible. I think strategically trying to make that hero pool as thin as you can because you already see both safe laners picked up. That's where a lot of the emphasis is going to be drawn. But now they almost steal the Beastmaster away from Team Team. Of course, this is one of Brax's best hero, but it is very interesting that you're picking it into the Clinks. I wonder if he's going to deviate slightly from the Helm of the Overlord, Helm of the Dominator build, because Clinks is the hero you pick versus Zoo for that exact reason.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money. You're sinking into a Helm of the Overlord just for the Clinks to be able to walk by and push a key and take that creep away. So I don't know. I mean, we could see the Beastmaster switch it up. It's just most of the time when the Beastmaster does get selected, you do just kind of go for that same build as usual. So if they're looking to take the Beastmaster and build up that Dom Helm anyway, then they run that risk. If they switch things up for a different build, then maybe you were looking for a different hero other than the Beastmaster himself. But either way, Infinity, I assume, have to have a plan for it. And if all else fails, you've got Grimstroke Beastmaster. Soulbind into a double roar is going to do a whole hell of a lot to keep these opposing heroes locked down. So there's still synergy, just maybe some questions about exactly what the item build will look like for Mariano.
Yep, and I was wondering when it was going to come up, but finally we do see this Monkey King picked up, a very, very, very obnoxious hero. The last time we saw it, of course, it was that brutal for Zoomer's lane. Now, Monkey King Undying is a little bit stronger than Monkey King Pangolier, but it will be just as annoying for the Sven to deal with. I can bet on it. Monkey King, it just is a little bit too efficient at those early levels when trading versus melee heroes. It makes every single melee safe laner incredibly sad in those early stages. And not just that, once we get into that stacking phase of the game, which you know this Grimstroke is going to be trying to get those big stacks for Burna, that's where the Monkey King is very good at scouting out for his teammates and then trying to steal them away. It's just such an obnoxious hero. It's way too good at its job right now. People have really slotted it very nicely into the meta.
It's just sort of found its spot, just being that really disruptive factor. And we've seen a couple of times as well, the Monkey King in that position for a role, eventually, unless you're sort of playing from behind, he does find a decent amount of farm for himself as well. So this is not your sort of entirely broke position 4 kind of hero. The Monkey King builds up an item or two over the course of most games. So already an annoying hero, already with the teamfight emphasis with the Wukong's command, and then you can throw a little bit more in the way of maybe aggressive itemization later in the game too. So that Monkey sort of drifts into that sort of blurred line between support and core if it goes that late.
Yep, the only thing you do need to be careful of is in the few instances where maybe the mid laner on Infinity can somehow spin that Sven's lane in a positive way. Monkey King is one of those heroes, almost in a similar vein to Viper, where you are very level dependent. Your farm can kind of be whatever. That's why we see a lot of different Monkey Kings itemized vastly differently, because your items don't really matter as much as your spells. But if you start to fall behind level-wise, Monkey King really doesn't start to feel nearly as impactful. It's very important at those early moments. If you can get off to a good start, then the hero just feels absolutely broken. And again, Infinity are picking a hero into what feels like Team Team have a few counters for. So it's a little bit of a risky pickup with this Batrider. You're picking Batrider into Abaddon, so it's a little bit strange. Again, for me, it's same with the Beastmaster. I feel like they're playing to their opponent's draft a little bit too much here, but a relatively strong hero. You ban out a bunch of the counters, so you're not going to have to worry about that Queen of Pain, as we already saw yesterday. Unplayable, not going to deal with it. But is it going to be enough? It's very good versus the Monkey King. Of course, we've seen the Batrider picked up versus the Monkey King, I think, 100% now. Every single time the Monkey King is picked up, it is always brought about by this Batrider. But is it going to be enough of a counter? I know that's going to counter the Monkey King. I don't know if it's going to counter the rest of their lineup. It's an interesting pickup for sure.
And I mean, a day and a half or so into this group stage, it kind of feels like the Batrider is almost cursed from the appearances we've seen from him so far. But maybe this is finally that breakthrough. Maybe this is Batrider's time to shine. Of course, he is now going to be going up presumably against that Storm Spirit as Team go in for the Storm
guys. Thanks
for
a lot.
Riolia. That's definitely a hero that he knows how to do some pretty spectacular things with.
Yeah, and when you talk about Realium, you talk about Quap, you talk about Storm, and you talk about OD, but OD is not really the hottest hero right now, but this is going to be interesting. In days of past, this has been a pretty bad lane for Storm Spirit, but I think nowadays it actually is pretty even, more or less. You're just going to be farming up, doing what you can. And they did find that rotate hero in Infinity where PP should be able to go to that monkey's lane whenever he can and then maybe spin it in their favor. But that is really the most I'm going to be looking for from this Batrider. If he can win the top lane, then valued pick. That is a huge win for them because if this Sven gets off to a good start, you are playing Omni Sven. You are going to be successful in these team fights. You're going to run everyone down, and it's not like the stuns on Team are going to do anything because they don't. You have Heavenly Grace on you. You shrug absolutely everything off. But that's where I think the big performances on Team side need to be coming out from that top lane. It has to be Brax. It has to be Flea. Everything is really going to start from them up there. And if it doesn't start up there, then all the pressure gets put on Rioya, and then everything is on Rioya. You only have one playmaker in your team after that point. So I think a lot of pressure is going to be on that early start versus the Omni Sven.
Yeah, and that kind of harkens back to sort of what we were looking at for a lot of the games yesterday, where there was a team that very clearly needed to sort of hit their stride so much earlier, find that timing window before their opponents. Otherwise, the consequences were going to be kind of nasty for them. So we'll see if a similar scenario plays out here. Game 1 certainly did not sort of fall into that kind of scenario. It was, well, really anyone's game right up until the very end. So we'll see how this one plays out. Game 2 of this series, Team, as we mentioned earlier, were able to get the win in game number 1. Comeback effort for them. They are now looking for the 2-0 sweep on Infinity, trying to put that sort of late game loss behind them, try and salvage some sort of 1-1 draw here to put points on the board on day 2 of the group stage. So see what they can put together. They're going to be running presumably, yeah, this Beastmaster Grimstroke lane up top. So as you said, what kind of pressure will they be able to put on that Sven? Excuse me, not on the Sven, on the Clinks. My mistake. Getting my sides all sorts of mixed up. But how aggressive can they be? On to Sammy. What can they do there? How much space will they be able to create early?
Yeah, and that's where, even though I understand the Grimstroke pickup, you're playing versus a Pangolier, you know how important it is going to be when it comes down to these team fights, but Grimstroke Beastmaster isn't really a lane. You can never get very aggressive with the Inkswell. It feels like they really are committed more to those later stages where they've doubled down on their team fight. They've definitely taken a step back lane-wise because there really isn't very much synergy between these two heroes. At least the boars are going to be a little bit annoying for Mike, but aside from that, I think the Clinks should have a relatively easy time, but really getting hit up a little bit.
Nice bit of early damage there, and yeah, like you said, that sort of leads into that question for Mariano Pamplona. How much aggression can you put together? How much can you try to slow Sammy down? Because it feels like you kind of just run at him, and that's really your only plan. You can stroke a Fate from long range, but the Inkswell, I mean, Mariano can charge forward, but if the Beastmaster's just running at you and the Inkswell hasn't been applied yet, that's kind of telegraphing the move a little bit. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they can pull it off. Mariano Pamplona, very much experienced, but if Sammy just sort of plays this, really plays it safe, plays it straight, I don't really think they're going to be able to do too much to him, especially with Mike just sitting on the back line for the backup.
Yeah, and that's where Mike should be able to win a lot of these trades. I think the best thing they can do is just kite back the wave, try and get Mariano as fast as a Helm of the Dominator as possible. He even already has the actually he's just going for a straight up Vlad's. I think he has the Helm of the Dominator queued up, but he just has it as a Helm of the Overlord instead. So his quick buy looks a little bit messy, but I can only imagine he's going to get the Helm of the Dominator first. It's just a little bit strange versus the Clinks because, again, he eats your boars, he eats your creeps, and those are the most ideal targets you could possibly ask for on Clinks as well. You get so much.
Meanwhile, Mike just trying to push Pamplona out a little bit. Once Pamplona steps back, then they can focus in on Mariano and his boars, and this is exactly sort of what we meant. If you're Sammy, if you just play it safe, don't take any real unnecessary risks. I mean, you're a Clinks. There's only so many risks he can actually take just with his kit, so sit back, farm, maybe Mariano gets some experience as well, but it would take quite a bit for Sammy to actually sort of not outfarm his opponent here as, okay, Sexy Yogi gets taken down in the bottom lane. Burna had the level 1 Stormhammer, but it's not enough to keep himself safe. Brax and Flea striking there to just try and sort of push the Sven back a little bit. If you take away that support system with the Omni, Burna's not going to be an easy kill at any point, but oh god. Speaking of kills though, Brax getting hit up. Can he somehow sort of weave his way through this tree line? He's not doing a bad job of it so far. Healing up with the salve. Ooh, immediately canceled. But still, I mean, not dead. Oh man, he had 1 second left for that tree dance. If he could have gotten that, would have allowed him to escape, but Infinity are able to put it together. So they do give up first blood, but you immediately get the return kill, and it's into the hands of the Sven as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, as well as you never want to make these trades into the pos 5 because you get full mana, you get to bring a few items over to your carry, and you get a few items for yourself. So that's where Burna is definitely going to be able to stabilize a little bit more here. But the entire reason that kill happens in the bottom lane is just because of the strength of the Monkey King. Monkey King, once you get Jingu stacks, you're so much more efficient now, level 1, than you ever have been. The lifesteal increase from 15 to 25 is actually massive. It doesn't really make sense why the numbers jumped that much. It's basically a level 2 Jingu at level 1, more or less. So it just feels so incredible. And if you can get it very reliably when you have both these heroes trying to just kind of stand in front of you, sit in your face, and there's not much that you can do to really alleviate that pressure, I think that's where Burna and Sexy Yogi need to get a little bit smarter, maybe try to get some of the small camp pulls off. Otherwise, that's all Flea needs to do here. If Flea can stop the pulls from happening, you're going to see Brax walk away with the lane.
And the concern on this Monkey King, you were sort of talking about it. In the draft, we were mentioning, okay, we'll get to that in a moment. PP able to get a solo kill onto Ryoya. That Storm, without the level 6, is not really, well, not really all that durable, not able to sort of zip away from his problems as Mariano and Pamplona take down Mike in the top lane. So they give up first blood. They then follow it up with 3 straight kills across all 3 lanes. And, well, that's about as strong as a response as you're really going to see at the 3.5-minute mark. Very nicely done on their part. Just sort of coordinating hits across every lane.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to see the mid kill, but that definitely shouldn't happen from Ryoya. I think Ryoya was just getting a little bit too far forward, and now you are basically a level behind the Batrider at this point. You have to be so scared, and investing in the boots already, Ryoya isn't really farming that fast either. He almost would wish this was a null, I think, and you know, he is putting a lot of damage into PP. I feel like this is going to be a very fast boots of travel now. Even the supports both rotating over to make sure that this Ryoya Storm doesn't have too much to work with mana-wise.
Always talk about rune control going up against the spirits. The Storm right now doesn't even have the bottle, so the water rune certainly would have helped, but even if he did pick it up, it wouldn't have had quite the impact that the Batrider is having. So PP, well, very much off to a good start here. You're never really going to be able to entirely shut down this Storm. You see Ryoya already just making the rotation, putting the points up into the Remnant, so he's going to fall back. He's going to find those stacked camps and catch up that way. But if you can, if you can keep him out of the lane itself while PP just gets free reign, that's going to go pretty damn well for you. And now the lasso's up. He actually did take that point at level 6. We have seen a couple Batriders in the past sort of skip over that point initially as top lane. Mike going to get himself hit up. Mariano Pamplona trying to run him down. A little bit more damage needed. Boar does get taken down, though, so they no longer have the slow to work with. And with Sammy firing away with the barrage, they were taking a little bit too much heat there. So they do back off, but you see the aggression out from Infinity. Even in a scenario there where it doesn't quite work out for them, they are willing to try to push up to that tower if it means going for a play onto the likes of Mike or Sammy.
Yeah, and it is interesting looking at Mariano. He actually has Vlad's components. He is actually deciding to go for it before the Helm of the Overlord, which is very interesting. I'm assuming that he's doing that because he doesn't want to play into the level 6 timing of Sammy Boy. Then your item would be literally useless, but I also feel like there is going to be a situation where Sammy Boy is going to prioritize getting a lot of those creeps taken away from him. But bottom lane is just, yeah, the walk down.
Monkey King. Try. Heavenly Grace was there, but yeah, Brax with the Boundless, just too strong. They'll be able to get the kill. Team's second. Burna, however, continues to just kind of chill out underneath the tower, but really, you had to expect this, right? If your team, the Sven's just going to sit there and he's going to farm. Meanwhile, mid, Flea made his way over. He's going to help Ryoya grab himself that Arcane Rune, and now, Oh, we were talking about it before when PP was able to find the kill. Ryoya was only sitting at level 4. Now he's level 6 with the ult, with the Arcane Rune. Might be able to make something happen. He's going to zip in on to PP, hitting him up with that Vortex into the Remnant. He needs a little bit more damage on top of that, though, but he will be able to get it. Zips forward, Flea gets away as well, just keeping far enough away from that Bat Rider where the DOT wasn't going to be able to hit him. And Team tied up 3-all. Nice plays from Ryoya, exactly what he needed after that earlier death.
Yeah, any other rune, and I don't think that the Bat Rider dies there, so it's very fortunate that Roy is actually able to make that play. Good decision making as well from both him and Flea, wanting to get that bait, knowing that as soon as 3 stacks were committed, really baiting hard on that bounty rune, and then PP completely falling for it. So it definitely is unfortunate, but oh, he saw Roy without mana.
There's going to be the lasso pulling him in. Does he have the damage to do this? Actually, no, he doesn't. Mike TP's in. Good play. Hits him up with the miscoil as well as the shield, and all right, Ryoya is able to get himself out of there. Meanwhile, down bot, Sexy Yogi was left alone. Brax and Flea make the move, and Team swinging that one quite nicely in their favor. The Storm lives, they get a kill. The only downside is now the Sven is just sort of rotating into the jungle to farm, but you're at least applying pressure really wherever they can.
Yeah, and it's just Yogi has to go bottom. It's a vacated lane. You don't want to give it up too early, but aside from getting a few levels, you're definitely falling behind a little bit where Team right now, they're very successful in playing in every single lane. There's really not that much that they need to do to get kicked out. The only time that we're going to see this top tower really be under a lot of pressure would be if Mariano went for that Helm of the Dominator, but with this Vlads, his buildup is much slower. Maybe we'll see another turn soon.
Berna doesn't have mana. He already used the stun there, so they're just going to jump directly onto him. Yogi is there to try and help out, but it's just not enough. Berna gets picked off, and that is just fast reaction times from Team. They've got both of the supports in the area, and the Sven is maybe a half step really too far forward. That's it, but that's all that they needed to find the kill.
Yeah, and it's very fortunate that these rotations are working out. As you see, the Infinity Squad has warded up the Team triangle, so we're not seeing too many big stacks being made by Flea, but that's where this bottom lane has just been a complete disaster. Because this bottom lane is vacated, they get to travel around the map so freely and make plays on the 8-minute rune on whoever's playing mid, and unfortunately ended up being Burna. So not only are you losing this bottom tower at breakneck speed, but you're not finding those easy trades. I think that's where Infinity, they're really going to start to fall behind here.
And Brax, there we go. Has to time it out right, but he will be able to take that tower down. So the tier 1 will fall. Meanwhile, well, Flea is attempting to stack here, and one of the creeps just did not agree with him, but even if he had gotten that creep's attention, I think the ward would have blocked it anyway, so they should suspect that something's probably going weird right now, but not sure if they'll be able to clear it up in time. Meanwhile, well, checking in on Berna, how is he doing here? He's got that Mask of Madness up and running, so there's sort of your kind of farming item. He's looking for the Echo Saber now as well, but you look at his net worth, he is top on his team at least, but he's a couple hundred behind really every single core 14 team, so it looks a little bit like Sammy's Sven game in that previous match where the buildup was something that needed a little bit more time. And, well, in that scenario, Infinity kind of gave their opponents that kind of time. We'll see if Team aren't able to maybe speed up the pace a little bit, as tier 1 top does get taken. Mariano and Pamplona able to take that one down at least, so that just about evens us up on that tower count. Meanwhile, down bot, you see Brax, he's just kind of hanging out there. They had eyes on the Omni, but they don't want to dive the tier 2 tower for it. But you take a look at the amount of control that they have here in this sort of bottom lane and south side jungle. They've got the lane ward itself. They've got another ward over here on the river ramp. So this is just really all under their control, which leaves the Sven with fewer places to farm comfortably.
And that's why we see Burna really accelerating incredibly slowly. Meanwhile, the Clinks with a much better lane has had a much better time, and he's playing the Medusa rotation now where he is taking over that mid lane, but they find a mid. That'd be huge, but they're going to whiff just barely, and Sammy Boy has a good reaction. I think he actually saw Pamplona there. So now that play is spoiled, and it gives a team the knowledge knowing where really the rest of the team is playing. You even see Sammy Boy feeling comfortable enough to walk to that top wave that was previously occupied by the entire enemy team. It's just a little bit too telegraphed, and it's a good push on mid now. Marion's going to try to get a little bit aggressive here, but the rotation has already been made. The setup is just a little bit too good from Team, and they're definitely still
Ooh,
getting more out of this map.
very nice scan, though, from Infinity
Yeah.
right on the ramp. So they should maybe not see this coming exactly, but at least anticipate that the movement could be coming towards that bottom lane. You see Sexy Yogi kind of hanging out, being that sort of early alarm system. They do jump in onto him, but even if they get this kill, this is just the Omni Knight going down for about a 3 or 4 man smoke. So, I mean, they get the kill, but more valuable targets stay safe because the Omni's able to step in and because that scan sort of scouted it out.
Yep, you even get to hold mid with Flea, who is able to get even more levels. He has so many levels on this Pango right now. He's been involved with absolutely everything, and I think he's just going to look to finish off this Blink Dagger pretty soon here. I think if he dies, he might want to buy out this Arcane Boots, but instead, he's just getting a really free time. I feel like I've said that for every team member. They're just having a really nice time right now.
Ryoyo, though, is getting slowed up by the board. Going to try to zip away, looking for the TP as he goes. All right. Good move there. PP, rather. He's got the boost of travel, so he's fast, but the Blink Dagger isn't there to really close that gap. So the Storm is able to get away. We now see Brax actually tree dancing his way to safety as well. So this is a scenario, if you're Infinity, you have not found these kills, but this is now your chance to retake control of this south side jungle. You see them throwing their own wards down, trying to take some of these sentries out of the mix for Team, and the Sven, or really anybody, but the Sven in particular, will then be able to go back in and start picking up that farm, maybe start accelerating that progress a little bit more with that area now more secure.
Yeah, and it's just going to become more and more of an issue, as well as Rioya finishing up a few of his items timings. That's where there isn't really a member on the Infinity side. The best item that they can play around is either the Blink Dagger on Sven or the BKB finished up by PP, but that all takes time, that all takes net worth, and unless you're getting aggressive on these towers again, without the successful rotations from Mariano, you're seeing them really lag behind their opponents, where Team are just already in positions to farm, but are just farming a little bit more efficiently at the same time as well, because everyone on their team has made the route towards that more farm-oriented playstyle, where Infinity are almost half fighting, half doing what they really can right now. Nobody's really having a fantastic game.
Yeah, now to be fair, Burn is just going to keep on farming, and yeah, now we see Team. They've got to take steps to prevent this. There's going to be the zip in. They're looking for that Sven, trying to lock him down. Fleet coming in with the Rolling Thunder. Pamplona will fall first. Burna does pop that God Strength, and now, okay, here comes Yagi in, trying to help him out. Not dead yet, but the zip forward from Yo-Yo gets him back into the engagement, and Burna will fall. The reinforcements from Mariano and Sexy Yogi just don't quite come in time to serve as that sort of defensive anchor. In fact, Yogi did attempt the Guardian Angel, but I don't think he was within range to hit up his teammate there. It was just him and Mariano who got affected by it. So maybe if that play comes in, maybe if the GA gets popped inside of the radius, then the Sven lives a little longer, might be able to get away or even turn, but without it, they are just sort of consigned to losing that fight. Only 2 heroes dead, but that Sven now being off the map is going to be a setback for really the entire side of Infinity, considering he was already kind of trying to keep pace with the Clinks.
And it's highly unfortunate because now you look at the map, Burna goes down there, and it would have been completely different if Pamplona didn't get stunned by that Rolling Thunder. It was just the fantastic Blink reveal from Flea, but you don't get to make this play into the enemy team's jungle just as quick. You would have wanted to do this 2-3 minutes ago, and they're going to try and keep control here of this hill, which is a little bit risky here. But
he didn't quite get the jump over the cliff that he wanted, but they're still kind of looking for this. Mike is leading the charge, but PP with the Firefly should be able to sort of push him back. Mike doesn't want to go any further, but on the backline, Ryoya, okay, you got the Omni, but you just zipped into 3. He's going to get hit up by the lasso, but once it wears off, he still had that haste rune. So the hasted move speed allows him to get away. He gets healed up, turns right back around for another round of fighting. Pamplona will fall, and Infinity, I think they didn't think PP was going to get the lasso. He gets the lasso connection while a lot of his teammates are kind of moving in the other direction already. So the lasso connection kind of comes as a surprise to everybody, and they didn't really have the ability to immediately sort of counter, or not counter, but capitalize on it. Storm Spirit just zips away and then comes back in to finish the fight.
Yep, and it's still fantastic prioritization.
Brax?
Yeah, this is a little bit awkward.
There's nobody here to help him.
He's very dead.
Completely by himself as Brax does go down. Mariano able to get the kill there, and okay. Not a bad kill. Still leaves them down by over 4,000 net worth, but Ryoya, ooh, that's bold. That's too risky for my liking with Mariano there with the roar, but he knew he was going to be able to get out, or at least suspected that he could, so he is away. The problem is, with the storm now backing off, Infinity are going to actually try to, I was going to say sneak the Roche, but really there's nothing sneaky about this. This is just, we're taking Roche and you can't stop us, as they do get that second life into the Sven's hands.
And that is the groundwork that they laid down with this ward on top of the hill. One of the most important wards on Radiant. If you can get vision up there, it feels like Dire can no longer defend their jungle, and Mike will finally deward it. But I think if they deward it a little bit sooner, there might be a hint of really hesitancy coming in from Infinity there for going into the pit, but
There's
they
the
have
Orchid
full
reveal.
knowledge. Yeah.
Jumping onto PP, a little bit more damage is what they need. There's the GA coming out, but Ryoya hits him up with that last little bit from the overload, and oh my god, he's going to go for it. He does have some mana left to work with here, so he's just going to go in. The Orchid actually came up a second time there, so just to make sure that Yogi wasn't going to be able to sort of pull off any shenanigans, gets the second silence down, and Ryoya is able to make that play happen. 2 kills in the middle lane, and now this tier 1 tower has really got to go down. Sammy's made his way over just to make sure they're going to be able to really just burn their way through this. Glyph will slow things down, but really doubt it's going to be enough to actually prevent the tower from falling, especially with Brax now even coming in to help out.
Yeah, there's not much they can do there, and more time, more space. Unfortunately, I believe Flea actually went down solo to Mariano. Just a little bit too strong on the Beastmaster. That's something that this Vlad's build does enable. All your summons do that little bit more damage, and the Helm of the Overlord as well has been completed. And I'm very intrigued to see how Mariano decides to play this, because as soon as he shows he needs to check this Clank, see if the Dark Pact or the Death Pact is available. If the Death Pact buff is not on the Clinks, then he has to be concerned, because otherwise you are feeding a really healthy target over. And Brax died, and Ryoya?
Ryoya is able to TP out just in time. No further lockdown, although Berna going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the Stormhammer came up after the fact that the TP had sort of finished off, but they at least get Brax. That's a big kill. You force Ryoya back here, so Infinity, I mean, we're not going to call this a comeback just yet. They're still down by about 5k, but they are starting to make a little bit of progress with some of these pickoffs. And now, okay, there's a jump in looking for Sammy. Can they lock him down? They've got him silenced up, but the shield comes in from Mike. They get the Soulbind, though, to keep him slowed and locked in, and Sammy's dead. IX Mike runs out of time on his ult, and that's absolutely big. The Blink Dagger is perfect for Burn. It gets directly on top of Sammy, and Sammy kind of lulled into a false sense of security by the presence of that Granite Golem. He thinks, I'm probably just going to be able to eat this. Instead, it's really kind of ingenious bait there. And Infinity take the fight, and now they get a tier 2 tower mid.
Yeah, it's just really quick, really simple plays, and if they can keep on rolling, this is exactly what they need to do. The only time that Burner needs to be scared is when that Rolling Thunder is already committed and Flea didn't feel like he had an opening there, and that's where Team, they really need to set up in these side lanes a little bit more, look for the split-off heroes. If they can get on top of them, then they should die very quickly. Everyone except for the Sven should be a very easy target, but the longer this game goes on, the more items they're actually able to shore up their weaknesses. Infinity will become very, very robust, and I don't know if you're going to have enough damage, enough mana to work with, especially on the Storm Spirit. That's the big problem, is will you have enough mana to deal with the HP pools on the enemy team? It's always the big question with Storm Spirit, something that Arcane Rune definitely helps with, but this is a big timing for an Infinity, and they're definitely going to push this as hard as they can.
Burna's just sort of trying to clear things out initially and make sure there's no one hanging around. Flea, however, is up to the north. Does the Hawk actually spot that?
Yep.
Flea's going to get stunned up. Silence as well. That Hawk vision coming in handy. As Infinity find the kill, that's going to free up the path to the tower. And I said a minute or two ago that Infinity were finding kills, but they weren't quite on that sort of comeback just yet. But now it is looking a hell of a lot like a full-on comeback. They were down by about 5k. Now it's less than 1, and they are pushing the high ground. Flea is actually going to buy back to try and mount this defense. And, well, it's really not much of a defense. The tier 3 tower is just going to be taken down, but now here comes Flea, rolling in, hitting up onto 1, but there's going to be the roar to lock him down. Burna just smacks the crap out of him, and that's Flea dead twice. His buyback is committed, doesn't really do a whole lot, and no one else on the side of Team has their buybacks either, so they need to be so incredibly careful about casualties in this engagement. Yes, you want to push Infinity away from your base, but not if it's going to cost you too much in terms of manpower. You've got to be very careful. Ryoya sees his target, jumping in, looking for PP, but there's the Stormhammer into the Guardian Angel. They're just going to turn this fight around. Ryoya has to try to get away, but he's going to get silenced up. The Inkswell stun will lock him down as well, and Ryoya's dead. He's gone for 50, no buyback. Brax thinking about the Wukong's command, but before he can channel out, he's going to be silenced now as well. Just incredible stuff. Pamplona is just on point with some of these silences, even with the cooldown. He's able to throw it in the perfect situation time and time again. Is now Burna pushing forward. Inkswell's on him. They're going to stun up Mike. And Mike is dead. Wukong's command does get placed, though, so that is going to push Infinity back a little bit. And Burna needs to TP out. Will he make it? No, he won't. They get just enough damage to finish him off. That is a big kill going Team's way. The problem is, you got to count the cost. Nearly the entirety of that top lane taken, a couple of buybacks committed, and their lead, it's gone, right? Cue up the South Park meme, it's gone.
Yep, and unfortunately for Team, they're just playing into a really strong, really robust lineup. Of course, that was the Aegis timing out, a Sven without God Strength. That was him at his weakest point. But now Burna has a full BKB, something he didn't have to rush, something he could very casually go towards. The good news for Team is that you do have this Scotty Clinks who is almost able to defend there. That was a really good timing from Infinity. You caught him at the tail end of that death pack, so it wasn't the biggest one as well. So he wasn't doing nearly as much damage as he possibly could. But unfortunately for Sammy, you're not finding the levels that you really need. If he was 25 or 22, I could definitely see them posting up a few more high ground defenses, but Infinity just need to keep the ball rolling. It's the same story as the previous game. If they can keep a lot of this pressure on, it's going to be very difficult for Team to hold on at this point, but a few more items, crit stick on Sammy Boy, a little bit more mana. If they can play the delay game again, then they definitely will be able to stall this one out. And Sven is another one of those very easy to kite heroes, very similar to the Luna. So if this game doesn't get blown wide open by them, we could definitely see this going late again.
The competing smokes, though, coming out here just past the 23-minute mark. It is a much more grouped up affair for Team. All 5 of their heroes making a very long wraparound here, but Flea taking the shorter path is going to run into a couple heroes first. The Roar, though, even through the blink actually locks him down, so Flea is dead, but Yagi will fall. Pamplona gone as well. Burna's trying to get in there for the damage, but he's fighting inside the Wukong's command. This could get a little bit complicated. Team just trying to hold inside of the ring. For now, they are going after Burna. I don't think they can catch up, though. Brax really would have to go quite a ways to make that happen. But Sammy was trying to track down Mariano, was able to find him. This is really sort of splintering into multiple fights, but Brax and Mike do get in onto Burna. They're going to be able to finish him off, and that leaves PP, the last man standing here, and he is not standing for very long. Sammy hitting him up with those arrows. Ultra kill for the Klings, 5 for 2 trade in total. And Team, well, they got to be feeling so good about that one, especially considering they had a little bit of momentum after the hold inside of their base, despite the fact they had to use a couple of buybacks. Now a definitive team fight win is going to get them back on top.
Yeah, and it's still really good spell usage from Infinity, able to pick off Flea at the beginning. The Pango had no effect on this team fight, but you lose the support so quickly. There's no GA to really help you with this Clinks at all. If the GA is there, then you have to run if you're Sammy Boy, but because he goes down so early, doesn't really need to be scared of anyone. And as soon as there are 4 or 6 skeletons on the ground, even the Sven can't walk into that physical damage. You see him queuing up an AC right now because even though he is Sven, once you have that Warcry off of you, once it ticks out, you are only sitting at 15 armor, and that's with a tower buff. So he is not feeling like the tankiest man right now. Helm of the Overlord does help a little bit with that, but yeah, I think Infinity, you got to run at them again. You have to try. You have to look for a better execute. If you can get onto the Storm Spirit, that'd be even better, but you need to be very careful. If they lose this next fight, they might just lose the entire game. They might lose their pace.
Burna smoke pop, jumping in, looking for the Pango first. Just like the last fight, they will be able to find that kill. Mariano, meanwhile, does throw down the Roar, but I'm not really sure how effective that's going to be right now. But they do come in for the Soulbind. That's going to leash up the Storm to Brax as they'll take down both. And now Sammy has no choice but to try to flee, but they're going to try and lock him down. They've got the stun in there from the Stormhammer. There's no BKB up on that Clink, so he is just desperately running for his life. I believe he is going to be able to get away. Mike, though, will get away as well. Okay, nobody had any cancel for that one. So you get out with 2, including Sammy, who is one of the most important sort of heroes that they could have protected, but they lose everyone else.
Yep, and the big difference between that fight and the one that Team Team won so convincingly is that Burna was able to beat into the Monkey King before that ring was actually successfully cast there. If you take all of your HP before the Wukong's command is down, you just don't have that armor to play with. You just get absolutely shredded, and that's where even the Abaddon cannot help you out that much, and that's where Infinity are definitely going to feel very strong fighting. I think that was also a double lasso. I think one of the targets just died so quickly we didn't get to see it for very long, but if they can still fight around their team fight spells, that is something that Infinity definitely does a little bit better. Team are much more chaotic. They're much more about playing on the ends of the fights, where Infinity will always take the fight to you.
Pushing
And
in to get the stun on Ryoya. He's able to zip away, though, before the Inkswell can get the follow-up stun. So he is out, but Mike is now in a bit of a bad way. But actually, they spotted Sammy on the back end. They're going to hit him up with the roar, but now Ryoya makes his move, zipping back in. But he's going to get hit up by that Soulbind once again. Silence and stun. Can they finish Ryoya? Yes, they can. Ryoya will fall, but Burna's not in a good spot here. He is in the middle of about 3 or 4 heroes. They actually managed to chunk him down. Now they'll turn their attention onto the Grimstrike. Pamplona will be taken. Double kill for Flea there, and the rest of Infinity will fall back. So initially, that was looking pretty impressive. They get the Storm, they lock him down. It takes maybe 2 or 3 attempts, but they do kill him. But now they've lost too much, and Sammy's on the attack. He is looking for someone. Can he get onto Mariano? He can, but he doesn't have any way to stop that TP.
No, and it's a really good boundless strike from Brax. If that secondary disable doesn't come through, then I don't think Ryoya will last for nearly as long. And ooh, I think they got Flea.
Yeah, move. Okay. Lasso's in there. Flea goes down, but he's just the distraction. The rest of Team, they're into the Roche Pit, looking for the Aegis as well as the Aghanim Shard. If you're Infinity, do you suspect this? And even if you do, you've now used your Lasso. PP is waiting for the Firefly. It's coming back up in a few seconds, so...
The Flame Break?
Oh, the Flame Break's there. He got it! And he got the Shard. PP, big plays from the bat. That is some excellent timing. The Flame Break is perfect. The Blink follows. And if you're Team, somebody's got to be sort of the lookout there. You can't allow him to get that close. He wasn't smoked or anything. He just kind of walks up and then blinks in. But now Ryoya, he's upset.
Oh, no.
He would like revenge. Unfortunately, this is not the revenge that they had in mind. Ryoya is actually going to get stunned up and taken down. Mike will now fall as well. And at this point, if you're Team, cut your losses and fall back now. You lose Roshan. You lose 3 heroes. They have just got to try and get themselves out of here.
No, and that is a horrendous throw from Ryoya there. He wanted to get revenge, like you said, but that was where Infinity had all of their spells. They had the GA, they had the Gaunt Strength. Burna does get forced to pop it a little bit sooner than he ideally would, especially because he wants to set up on these towers as soon as he can. But really sloppy from Team to go for that Roche like that. Brax wasn't even looking to get down his Wukong's command. If the Wukong's command is down, I think maybe you slow down the Bat Rider enough to finally try and get revenge for him stealing absolutely everything from the pit. You don't even get the Aegis out of the Bat's hands, and then Ryoya zips into Aurora. It just does not feel good for the Storm, and Ryoya is struggling to find his feet back in this game. I think he's really lost his place when it came to what he's been able to do. He needs to find this backline, but with his item buildup, we're not seeing the Ags come out. We're not seeing the Bloodstone. He really has a finite amount of mana to work with. He just has built himself up to try and tank through what could be cast on him, and I just don't think it's really working right now. The best thing Team have going on for them is the fact that this Clinks is Clinks. He is still going to be the huge monster of the team fight. And if you get down to the skeletons, he's working on his 25 as well. That's where this hero becomes that 5,000 HP monster. Oh, Sammy.
Oh, that's a problem. He's hit up by the Lasso. Ryoya, though, zipping in. Okay. Good follow-up there. They're going to keep the Bat Rider in the fight, but now here's Burna into the engagement. BKB on, stuns up, and Sammy will fall. Now, the dive bomb from the Hawk did not actually connect, so Brax is going to be able to get away, but this is Team trying to make their retreat, or maybe not. Flea, he's going in. That's... well, it's bold, but he might actually just be able to get away with this. He is just straight up rolling out. He was hit by the Soulbind, but since he's so far away from any of his teammates, it doesn't latch onto another target that doesn't pin him in place, and Flea just successfully got pretty much everyone other than Sammy away.
Yeah, and this is a pretty terrible situation now. If you are Team, you lose your best hero when it comes to defending the base, and now Burna, if he really wants to, could just look at these towers, and there isn't much that you can really do if you're Team right now. You just have to kind of sit and let this happen.
I'll pop the Glyph at least. That'll buy some time, but that Clinks... oh, he's actually only about 5 gold short of his buyback, so if they can buy a little bit more time, they could get him back in for a fight if they're looking to take one. But with Burna on this front line, I don't know if you actually want this fight. Ryoya, though, zipping in onto the back line, able to zip back away before anyone can catch him. But he can't really clear through all of those creeps. Maybe the lane creeps, but Mariano there with the sort of battering ram backup that allows them to take the entire middle lane, and Infinity building themselves up now, getting that advantage. Full lane taken mid, most of top taken. That ranged Rax needs to be just blown on, really. 28 HP remaining, but they haven't taken it just yet. But Team's position is a little precarious at the moment.
Yeah, and if they aren't if they aren't careful, any fight that they take going forward is going to be megas. And their team is pretty good at dealing with megas at the end of the day, especially because Flea, if he really needs to, could go back for that Maelstrom, just has the Javelin presently, but this is still really unideal. I think right now, Flea, he's got to look for something with this Lotus Orb. If he's able to reflect one of those big teamfight ultimates onto the Infinity side, maybe this fight goes a little bit worse for them. As well as Berna going for that Daedalus, so he is still very thin, especially when he pops that Mask of Madness. He is really relying on his teammates to keep him alive, but we're just not seeing Team able to muster up a team fight with the same degree of setup that they were able to do. And Brax
is forced into the maneuver there with the Firefly coming through. He'll drop down the Wukong's command. Guardian Angel, though, coming out from Yogi, but, well, Team are trying this. They're trying to fight inside the ring, but the fight is really kind of drifting away. Berna just trying to go directly in onto Sammy, and now Sammy, he's got to just try and back himself out. He's still got about half HP, but if he's stuck in the middle of the fight, Berna just absolutely massacres him. Sammy is dead. He will buy back immediately, trying to keep the fight going, but by the time he's able to rejoin his teammates, they've already lost another. Brax does get taken down, but now Ryoya's back into the fight. They've taken down Yogi. They're trying to get PP as well. They will be able to burn through that first life, but while they wait for the respawn, Berna back into the engagement. Ryoya gets taken down. No buyback available for the Storm, as both sides trying to regroup. Nice Boundless, though, connecting onto two. Berna's dropping low. If they can finish him off, this would be absolutely big for them, but they can't get it. Berna will pick up the Rampage. Sammy eventually brings his reign of terror to an end, but the fight is actually still going. PP was trying to get the last bit of damage onto the Clinks, not able to do so. And now it's down to Mariano and Pamplona. Do they actually have the means to finish this one off? They're trying. They've got the Black Dragon in there as well, and they will finish the job. Sammy falls. Flea now is going to get stunned up. He'll be finished off too. And that fight is finally over. It goes a hell of a long time. Buybacks out from both sides. And now, speaking of buybacks, Berna wants in, realizing, you know, our opponents used a lot of their resources here. We can keep this push going, but now the buyback's been
Oh,
Mariano. He's going to hit him up. Does he have the... okay. Does he have the damage? He needs maybe one more hit. The swashbuckle isn't enough, though. Okay. Well, at least Mike's able to come in there to finish the job, but it would have been great if Flea could have just gotten that himself and then backed away. He's now dead, and Flea bought back to make that play. So now he's dead. It's really down to Ryoya and Mike to try and make something spectacular happen, but with the buybacks coming in from Infinity as well, this is a 2-on-5 high ground defense. And even without the Aegis, I don't really know if Infinity have too much to be worried about. The Storm can only zip in onto a single target. We're not even remotely close to that Aghanim Scepter for the AoE Vortex, so really they can just kind of play this one out. They'll take the bottom lane of Rax, and that is going to be the Megas going their way.
And unfortunately, I think the game is next on the table. They're trying to get the creep waves in. I think Flea with that buyback was going to try and possibly force that bottom wave out, just hoping for the best, but this is just the game here. I don't think that they can really do much about it. Burn is just focusing down the Ancient. I think that's just it.
Yep, that will do it. Infinity able to march their way forward to get the win here in Game 2. So we talked about it a little bit in Game 1. They were ahead for quite a while. The execution just kind of fell a little bit short for them in the later stages of the game. This time, at least, they're sort of able to avoid a similar drop-off. They take the win. They get that 1-1.
Yeah, and I think it's the victory that really Infinity were looking for. I don't think that they felt like they had lost that first game really up until one or two high ground pushes went awry, but this was Infinity in full force. They really got to show what they were made of, and they played that waiting game with the big carry that so many South American teams love to play around, and then they struck when it was hot. I think really the best scenario for them to get a team fight going on the team side was the one or two instances where they're able to kite out that BKB, they're able to kite out after that initial war cry, they're able to kite the Guardian Angel, and there are a bunch of skeletons on the ground all shooting everyone. but they blow their shot a little bit there. I think it all started in the top lane where it was Sammy Boy getting caught off, followed by Rioya getting caught off, followed by that huge play from PP. If that Roche gets into the hands of the Skeleton, I think maybe Sammy Boy is able to spin that game a little bit more in their favor. But instead, after that, it just felt like there was never an opportunity for that Clinks to be your pseudo frontliner. It just felt like not only did he not have enough damage, but he wasn't able to be the hero that they needed for Team Team to win this game.
Mhm. And sort of on the other side of things, we're finally seeing the Batrider has his day. There were so many instances yesterday where the Batrider just, through not entirely his own fault, was just sort of on that back foot, wasn't ever really able to contribute. But this time, PP, he was maybe not quite everything his team needed to be, but needed him to be, excuse me. But when the time came, as you said, when it was all or nothing on that Roche play, he had the perfect timing. He had the itemization to get him in there. And at the time, it didn't feel like it was maybe quite as big, but looking back on it, so much of the momentum, so much of the confidence just seemed to get sort of maybe sucked away a little bit from the opposing side after that Aegis gets stolen.
Yeah, and it's definitely a little bit demoralizing, especially the situation the team were in there. They had just taken another team fight where they were able to kill Sven, and then that happens to you. So it definitely kills everything that you're thinking about in that moment. So now just hope team can look at this loss, not really feel it too much. Of course, it's very early on in the group stage, but just got to play some more Dota.
Mm-hmm. And they got a point. The 1-1 draw is going to benefit both sides in their respective first appearances. So with that, we are done with Team and Infinity. We are going to be moving on, saying hello to a couple of familiar faces from yesterday. It's going to be 4 Zoomers taking on D2 Hustlers. So these two teams among the top in the group stage right now. 4 Zoomers 2-0, D2 Hustlers 3-1. So a matchup between two of the early front runners. I know it's day 2, so early front runner kind of has some heavy air quotes around it, but these two teams showed us quite a bit yesterday. Now they get the chance to face off directly against each other. So we are going to be moving into a bit of a break while we wait for that next series to get underway. So stick around, and we'll have 4 Zoomers versus D2 Hustlers coming your way in just a little bit.